of all the unexplained mysteries in our universe, perhaps the most tantalizing and controversial is whether it's possible to travel through time.
Can we really travel back into the past? Can we really alter our destiny? It is one of the greatest questions.
In 1955, Ron Mallett was only 10 years old when his father died of a heart attack. Grief-stricken, young Mallett yearned for a way he could see his father again and perhaps save his life.
About a year after he died, I came across H.G. Wells's book, The Time Machine, and that is what saved me, because I thought if I could build a time machine, as H.G. Wells talked about, then I could go back into the past and try to save his life and see him again. And so I became obsessed with the notion of trying to build a time machine.
Gentlemen, I am talking about traveling through time.
The Time Machine was a work of fiction, but Mallett soon discovered there was science to support the mysterious notion of time travel. And the source was none other than Albert Einstein. Einstein theorized that space and time were linked, so that one could imagine space-time as a sort of fabric or sheet. With his general theory of relativity, Einstein showed that a massive object, like a planet, a star, or black hole, actually warps the fabric of space and time. In fact, Einstein believed that gravity, the force that binds us to the Earth and keeps the Earth in orbit around the Sun, is really just an effect of this warping. For Mallett, this mind and universe-bending idea has far-reaching implications. Because if you could generate enough gravity to twist time into a loop, perhaps you could create a pathway for moving backwards and forwards through time. Einstein's theories fueled Ron Mallett's quest to learn how to build his own time machine. But time travel wasn't a subject that could be studied by serious scientists out in the open.
As a matter of fact, I used a cover story that worked for me. I studied black holes because black holes allowed me to understand how Einstein's theory affected time, and it was a crazy idea, but it was considered legitimate crazy. So I built my career on studying that and being able to use Einstein's general theory of relativity.
Black holes, the massive remnants of collapsed stars, have an almost unmatched gravitational power to distort space and time, which is exactly what Mallett wanted to do. But how could he create in the laboratory something jam-packed with enough matter to actually warp space-time? For inspiration, Mallett turned again to Einstein and his most famous equation, E equals mc squared, which showed that matter and energy are just different forms of the same thing. So following Einstein's theory, light, which is energy, should be able to warp space and time just like a massive object does.
We're used to the notion that gravity is created by matter. But it turns out that in Einstein's theory, light can create gravity. And that is what my work is based on. In other words, if gravity can affect time and light can create gravity, then light can affect time.
Mallett has built a model to demonstrate his concept, that a circulating laser beam can create a tunnel of light that twists space and time.
It has 4 intersecting laser beams. The region within that column of light would represent the region in which space is being twisted. And eventually, time would also get twisted by this column of light. And this would allow us to travel back into the past.
The first time traveler will have to be something much smaller than a human being, a subatomic particle like a neutron.
What we're trying to do is not human beings, but to try to send subatomic particles information to that. And that is a huge leap in itself, because imagine if we can send information back into the past that could tell us about future disasters and be able to avert those disasters. We can understand how circulating light beam can twist space and time by a simple analogy with a cup of coffee. If we think of the coffee and the cup as being like empty space, and we think of the spoon as being like a circulating light beam, then you can see what happens to the coffee as I stir it. The coffee swirls around. Well, that's what the circulating light beam is doing to empty space. And we can see the effect of this in the case of the coffee by putting in a coffee bean. As I swirl it around, the coffee bean gets swirled around. In the case of the laser, as the beam is circulating, we put a subatomic particle called a neutron in. And as we stir the space around, the neutron will get swirled around, just like the coffee bean. Now, remember, in Einstein's theory, space and time are connected, so that swirling of space will cause the straight line of time to be swirled into a loop. And along that loop in time, we can go from the past to the present to the future, and then back into the past.
Science fiction has depicted time machines as allowing unrestrained travel forward and backwards in time. But Mallett cautions that a time traveler could only journey back as far as the moment that the time machine was first turned on.
In other words, if I turn the device on today and I leave it on for 100 years, then someone 100 years from now could travel back 75 years, 50 years, 25 years, all the way back to the moment I turned the device on. But they can't travel earlier than that because the device didn't exist earlier than that. And it's the device that's creating the effect. So there's nothing for the time travel to materialize into.
This limitation means that Mallett's time machine could never give him the capability to travel back to 1955 to save his father's life. To do that would take some technology from out of this world. Theoretically, an advanced alien civilization might have a time machine that was switched on thousands of years ago.
We may be able to use their time travel to go back to visit our ancient past, because if they have developed time travel, let's say 10,000 years ago, it would still have the same limitation. But once we encounter them, we could use it. Perhaps someday we may be able to visit ancient Egypt and ancient Rome.
For now, Mallett is focused on getting his time machine built. A project that will require $250,000 in startup costs alone. Money is just one obstacle facing any physicist daring to dabble in time travel. There are also certain paradoxes that many believe make time travel impossible, like the infamous grandfather paradox. Imagine you go back in time and kill your own grandfather before he meets your grandmother. Therefore, you never would have been born, and therefore couldn't have gone back in time in the first place.
And then a loop is set up of possible, impossible, happened, it didn't happen.
But Mallett believes recent advances in theoretical physics suggest that these paradoxes aren't a problem at all. Many physicists now believe in the far-out notion that our universe is just one of many parallel universes. So that when you go back in time, you might actually be entering a parallel universe in which you can alter events without affecting the universe you came from.
We believe that the river of time can have whirlpools. Whirlpools by which you may be able to go back and meet your parents before you're born. or perhaps even fork into two rivers by which you can actually alter the past to create an alternate universe. These are all theories that are at the very forefront of modern physics today.
Mallett believes we may be as little as a century away from time travel by humans. Still too late for him to travel back in time to save his father.
Your name?
Rocky.
Rocky.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you very much. Remember what's happening to space. It's swirling around.
But his personal loss has opened a door for a new world for future generations.
I developed the basic equations for this.